Hello, welcome to Christian Media Review. My name is William Hemsworth. Thank you so much for joining me for today's show. Honored and privileged to have my good friend and author, Ramona Torino, also known as I Am Dauntless here. Ramona, how are you today?
I'm doing great, William. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. I know we spoke briefly off the air. We were talking about the wildfires that are going through California. And I just want you to know that I asked my listeners and myself, I'll have my church, everyone, pray for everyone there in California. It's really a devastating situation, and thank you for getting me caught up on it. I really had no idea just how devastating it was. But do you have anything to share on that? I know you had mentioned a family. Maybe we can pray for that family as well that's going around adopting others.
Well, there's a really cool Facebook group. I don't have it in front of me. Let me see if I can get it since and they actually have Paradise Adopt a Family, and they're doing it's called Paradise Fire Adopt a Family, and they are doing some amazing things across the country. They've been on the news, but Paradise is the small city town that basically has been devastated completely, everything lost. And these families are reaching out to everyone to see if people would adopt the different families that are now homeless, with nothing. Devastated people that are experiencing great loss and also PTSD because of what they've had to, escape from. It was very close to being, a lot of them burned, just trying to get out.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that, and everyone go out there, check out that Facebook page. Let's spread the good around and show people that we care. So, Ramona, I've reading through your book this past week, "Free at Last." The struggle to be good enough. It's your first book, and it's a really inspiring read. I've read it a couple times now. I take away something new from it each time, which is great. So, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Can you tell us a little bit about your faith journey?
Yes. So, God is just amazing. And I first had an encounter with Christ when I was about 14. But, as we go on our walk, I was one of those that the seeds fell on kind of rocky ground. And I got saved. And then, that was in the 70s. And a lot of people were getting saved. There was that movement going on, but there was no connection and I wasn't really being in a church or have people that could just pour into me to teach me. And so, I went through a lot of struggles, even though I had Christ within. I went through a lot of struggles trying to get to that place where I knew where there had to be more to this, but I wasn't sure how to get there. And writing Free at Last, The Struggle to Be Good Enough, I think I was 33 and I had been through a pretty domestic situation with my oldest daughter's father. And then I decided I needed to go back to school because I couldn't afford to raise them. And I wrote a paper called Free at Last. It was a women's writing class, my first college class. And I saved it. So I'm 58 now, and the book came out in 2015, so a few years ago. And one day I just, God just kind of sends those little subtle hints like, hey, you should write a book. Because as the life journey went on, I still continued school. Things were going good. I would get plugged into a church and I'd meet some people and then I'd have to move and just a lot of different things. And I just needed that foundation in Christ, but I didn't know how to find it. And so through that struggle, it was trying to be a good mom. I tried to be a good wife. That didn't work out. Twice failed. All I had was my work, and I was trying to do really good in my work. So that way, at least I had an income to support my family. And so that book kind of got birthed from, I think God had instilled in me that even though I went through so much and some of the incidences that I portray through Emily in that book God was going to use all those things, and I was going to be able to help people. And some of the things that are in that book were hard to write. It was a healing part, but by writing it, there's so much healing when you can write things out, and especially if God inspires you to write something. And so that's where that kind of got birthed. And I wasn't sure about my name being used on it. And so that's when I kind of researched and found a pen name. And I am Dauntless. The Lord said, well, you are, because you're going to share your story, and it's going to relate to a lot of things that people are going through. And that's where that came from. And so, yeah, it was quite exciting when it first came through, and it was a book.
Amen. I mean, have you received any messages from other people, readers, about how the book has impacted them?
Yeah. Yeah. When it first came out, and still now, and, I'm a full-time teacher, so I don't put a lot of effort as I should in the marketing part, but I'll get there. But when I do get it out and people do, read it, usually what I'll get is a big hug. A lot of people relate to a lot of the things that Emily went through in the story, and it gives them hope, and understanding of where their faith can take them. When you feel like there's no way out, and you understand that through it all, he was holding your hand. There's circumstances in life that we're going to go through no matter what. Those circumstances are going to be there. Heaven is not on earth yet, but with Christ, we can pull through those things, because our ultimate is to be able to share what God is doing in our lives amongst, living here. This is not heaven. And a lot of people, sometimes, we get caught up in that. Like, we want to be happy here. I want my happiness to be earned, the eternal place where heaven is. And so, I learned how to understand what that means with my journey, and being able to give people a glimpse of hope. When you think, you hear the people, and I'm sure you've heard them, William, where they say, if I walk into that church, it's going to fall down, because they just feel like there's so much darkness that they've made bad choices, that God would never forgive them. And, you and I both know that God forgives all of us. All sin is sin, but once we accept him, it's all washed away. And then it's up to us to just rely on him to get through. And so, yes, I've gotten a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, a lot of hugs, a lot of tears. Um, and I continue to reach out to people that need help, in those areas. Depression comes out from a lot of those hurts, right?
Oh, absolutely. We never know how our actions, everyone's watching. That's what I always say. Everyone's watching how we're going to react to situations. And I think your obedience in answering God to write Free at Last has helped a lot of people. I know it's helped me. Granted, I've never gone through anything remotely like you have, but it's that reminder that no matter what, God is there. He was going to bring us through. And like I said, you were obedient in writing Free at Last, and it spawned a couple other projects. And one of them is your newest book, Blossoms of Life. So
Yes, that was
so what
super cool.
inspired you to write Blossoms of Life, and how'd you come up with the name?
That's such a cool story. So, Blossoms of My Life, you know, when I got my healing from writing Free at Last, the struggle to be good enough, there was still more that needed to be said, because I realized that no matter all that struggle I was going through for so many years with you know with the domestic violence, and just alcohol, just depression, everything that I was going through, no matter what I went through, Christ was still walking with me, and he allowed me to complete my education, and he got me into that place of working with special needs kids, and I'm in my 19th year. And so I started thinking about that, like how grateful I am, because there's so many people that go through what I went through, but lose their jobs or lose their place of, they just kind of sink and give up and don't have anything. But he just kept getting me up and kept pushing me forward. So I knew that Blossoms of My Life, I knew that I needed to write something about the kids and my families that have been an integral part of my career, working with special needs kids. And so the way the story, the way the book came out was I went to go see a really good friend in Riverside, and she was going to do some photos for me for just to have on my website. So we did a bunch, and she asked me about my next book, and I said, I know what I want to write about, but I need a title, because I'm one of those writers that likes to have a title before I start writing it. And so she took a pictures. We went to sleep. She woke up the next morning. She said, I need to show you something. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I never do this. And I got my laptop and I just started working on this photo. And so she showed it to me. And the minute she showed it to me, it was me sitting under a blossom tree. I just immediately, my eyes started tearing up, and I told her, that's it. She's like, what do you mean? I said, that's going to be the cover to my new book. My title of my book is going to be called Blossoms of My Life. And so that's where that came from. And so much has come from that title, being a blossom in someone's life. Looking up the word blossom and why did that just stand out to me? And there's the rejuvenation and the renewing of the spirit and the soul that comes from a blossom, and I just envisioned a flower, and all these blossoms and all these kids that have touched my life and made me who I am. They've given me the compassion. They've given me the love and understanding. Their families and what they struggle through with having kids with special needs. They've been an important part of my life. So this book has 9 families that I worked with. And so they're the co-authors, and they were able to have the opportunity to share and write what it's like to have a child with special needs. And there were so many things that were in common with the families that decided to say yes and be a part of this journey. None of them knew they were going to have a child with special needs until they were born. There was one family that actually was their last in vitro, and they were the first in vitro couple that were told that their child was going to have possibly some special needs. And most in vitro couples will abort if they know that. And because they had been trying so hard to have a child, they took the chances, and their son was born with special needs. So, remarkable families. And so from that came my radio show, William, Blossoms of My Life, because, there's just so much that goes with it, and being a blossom in someone's life. You never know the people that are going to touch your life. And, it's almost like you can stand there as a tree and you have all these individuals that pass by, and they are all the blossoms that make that tree stand firm. So, it was pretty cool to finally have that.
What's unique
title
about the book? You mentioned that, you have all these co-authors. Each chapter was written by a mother of a family that you've known. So what was that process like, putting the book together with them?
It was a process, but they were so disciplined. I gave them the time that they needed. First of all, if you're going to do a project like that, I would recommend it. I thought it was very interesting, and I learned a lot about it. And the families, they had healing because they got to write. And remember, healing, it comes from writing when you're writing from deep within. And so, basically we had to have a little release form that was just basically saying, that what they're part of the book. And that they have the opportunity to buy books at the wholesale cost, whenever they want the books, I can order them for them. They're co-authors to the book. We had timelines, but I wasn't real strict on them, but I would check in with them every now and then. I knew it was going to probably take about a year. With the 9 families, I think I had reached out to 20, and 9 are the ones that finally confirmed. So I just kind of checked in with them, but they wanted to do it. So there was never a time that they weren't writing. Then they would submit their additions to me, and when I would read them, I would cry, because then it just kind of confirmed this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So that was awesome. We did the editing, and then Shannon helped us.
Absolutely.
You
Love
remember
Shannon.
Shannon
Shannon's
Whittingham
awesome.
from oh my God. Yeah, she was a godsend. So she's the one that kind of worked with me also on just kind of coaching me on what I needed to do next. You know, she has that great book about the veterans. And so we just worked together, and, you know, we waited. I think one of my families needed a little bit more time, and hers is probably the longest chapter, but it's the one about the in vitro, and she just really wanted some time to really go through and acknowledge the doctors that helped saved her son's life. And I said, absolutely. And so we were all excited once we got the book. And then I went through Fiverr.com. I don't know if our listeners have heard of them, or if you have. Fiverr.com. And you can get a lot of things done through them from $5 and up. That's why they call it Fiverr. So they helped me with the photograph and making it the book cover. And then I reached out to them about translation. And I found a gentleman from Pakistan who spoke 4 languages. And so the book was able to be translated into Spanish, because 3 of my families spoke Spanish only. So I wanted to make sure I honored them and got the book in Spanish. And that was only $150, where every place else in the States was going to charge me $15,000 to $2,000 to translate my book. So that was a blessing to be able to find them and get that part done.
That's great. And you mentioned
the whole project.
And you mentioned that the process of the book kind of spawned the radio show, which is a great show, by the way. What do you hope to achieve with the radio show? And where do we listen?
That is just so awesome. So KKMC 880 AM, just like with your show, right? And what happened was the station managers, you know, James and Kelly, going to their station and promoting my book. They loved it because I would bring the families in and we'd go on the radio. They said, you should just have your own show. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't think that would be something I could do. And they're like, yeah, you could do it. We can help you. And so, you know, we sat down and I said, what would we call it? And Callie said, call it Blossoms of My Life. And just find people that have stories of faith that they want to share, because it's true. They would all be blossoms of somebody's life out there, right? And so that's been kind of fun, because we've been in so many states now. I think we counted 13 different states that we've been in, with different people, from pastors to just people that have something that they want to share about what God's doing in their life. And they've been inspiring. I love listening to them, you know, and just hearing what they have to say. And so the show is basically just, you know, 30 minutes of giving God glory, so that other people can hear someone else's story from real life people that I've been able to meet on the phone.
Well,
some of them in person.
I thank you so much for taking the time out. I know as we record this, it's early on Saturday morning, but thank you for taking the time out to one, so we can just catch up, because we haven't talked in a while, and just to tell my listeners your story. So where can the listeners learn more about your work? Where can we go?
I have a really cool website that a really good friend put together. So you can go to www, and then it's the letter I, the letter M, Dauntless. So I am Dauntless.org. And if you go to that website, you can find my books and you can listen to my radio shows. We post them on there. So you could just, you know, see what we're doing. I've got a couple new projects coming up. some of the bus drivers said, hey, we've got some stories about taking these kids, your blossoms, to and from school. And so trying to put together some bus drivers that want to write their story of what it's like to be a special needs bus driver. And I'm working on a title with that one. And then I'm going to be writing a book. I've got a pastor that I'm helping with his project. God just put me in the right place with him. And so I'm going to be helping him write his story. And then I'm going to be writing a book about what
Fantastic.
it's like to be baptized in
Sounds
the
like
Holy
good
Spirit.
stuff coming. I can't wait to read that book about the bus drivers. Some great stories. But again, thank you for taking the time.
Fun.
God bless you in your future work. And everyone, check out iamdauntless.org. You'll be blessed. You'll love the content there, and check out the books. Ramona, thank you so much for joining us today. All right. God bless you.
You're welcome, William. God bless you.